Hi, I'm Charlie Morrison. I'm Executive Director of Walk the Plank. Walk the Plank is an outdoor arts specialist. We deliver major events and parades across the UK and internationally. We also work with smaller communities, so we often tag on making and learning and training to our projects around the country, and we work locally with communities and young people to help train them in outdoor arts. We're here today in our Bay 2, which is where we do our clean makes. We have the same space next door, but for things like welding and angle grinding, so there may be a little bit of noise in the background.
I'm Agnieszka Predga, or better known as Aga Predga, and I'm finance manager at Walk the Plank.
So, Aga, you're finance manager here. That is an absolutely crucial role for a company like this. Without you, nobody gets paid, nothing happens and nothing moves. Would you tell us in a little bit more detail about what kind of things you do here?
So I'm involved in all finance and accounting, bookkeeping related aspects of the company. So I'm raising sales invoices to clients, making sure that they are paying us, or crucially paying on time, ideally. Then I'm processing from the bookkeeping side all the supplier invoices, paying all the suppliers and our partners, so they are getting payment for their work. I'm involved as well in all the reporting aspects to make sure that we receive everything, we paid out everything, and how the figures are stacking up.
And how did you first end up coming to a place like this? How did you end up at Walk the Plank?
It was a bit of lucky coincidence in a way, ending up in the creative industry, which is obviously much different than typical finance company or big bank. I'm originally from Poland, so my route is a bit different than people based in UK. I studied management and marketing at uni. Then after coming to UK, I was involved in lots of customer service-based jobs, and I reached the point that I couldn't stand customer-facing role anymore. But in the meantime, I was involved in more financial aspects of my previous work, so I decided to retrain in bookkeeping. I did Association of Accounting Technicians, AAT qualifications, level 2, and decided to look for an entry role in the finance bookkeeping world. And then that's when Walk the Plank came, which was probably the most lucky timing ever, as it's not typical finance company.
Is it essential to be trained to do what you do?
Up to some point, it's probably even not essential to be trained. You can get experience through working, though having formal training helps to understand rules, regulations, and processes to make the job easier, not just like figuring out everything on the go. But then there are few different routes which can be taken. University is not necessarily the only option here. I retrained in the finance field in my 30s by working in the current job at the time and studying from home. The home learning in UK is quite flexible, so you can fit it with your commitments. I reached accounting technician level 3 now, but it can be possible to train further level 4 or even go for the full chartered accountant. The most important, I'd say, is to get some knowledge, initial one of bookkeeping, which can be done from home, and then lots of skills can be picked up at work really by experience. So there are plenty of options, and the creative sector, I think, is very, very accommodating for everybody.
Well, if I'm allowed to add something that's just from my point of view, so I'm the other way around, so I did learn on the job, and because of the way I fell into a previous role, I was kind of trained on the job by someone who I worked with, who taught me the ins and outs of systems, and because I have a bit more of an overarching role in the company, I think I can get away with that to an extent, and I did that at a previous company, but coming here, I think that your training and your deeper knowledge definitely shows, although I would say it is definitely possible to do it without training. It just takes a lot longer. It took me years and years. Do you think there's a comparison between what you do here and what you might do if you were in a non-cultural company?
The biggest difference, I think, is that First is a creative sector, so there is no smart dress policy in the creative sector. But then I think it depending on the size of the company. As Walk the Plank is a small company, so I'm involved in more aspects of the finance, including management decisions, which in bigger size companies probably wouldn't be possible.
Do you think people who weren't familiar with the cultural sector would be surprised by what you do here and what it means to a company like this?
I think so, because I think that the main perception is that the cultural sector, there is space mainly for artists, painting or creating something, and in average person minds it's not linking that there is a lot of background jobs required to deliver all those artistic things.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who was maybe, 15 to 19, who had never considered the cultural sector before as somewhere to work, but who maybe doesn't identify as being an artist? What advice would you give?
I would say go for it, try it, but there is lots of opportunities to get involved. Even getting as a volunteer on some events will give a feel of the industry, what people do, why it's done, and then just go for it, even if your skills are not from the artistic spectrum. They are more technical or maths or administrative, as there is a huge demand, I'd say, for keeping a hand on all those backstage processes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. We have a huge number of people who we collaborate with. We have a lot of people who work as freelancers, and there's this huge network of really skilled individuals. What kind of percentage of them do you reckon are artists?
I'd say probably, definitely majority is a technical crew from what I can recall from invoices. But I say artists are probably 20-30%. The rest, it would be all those technical, engineering, special effect, admin people.
Yeah. So this organisation, we have a small core team, and we have a board, and we have a huge range of freelance artists and associate artists and that kind of thing. Just what in your view is the importance of diversity in an organisation like this?
I think the diversity is very important, probably in every organisation, really not only in the cultural sector. Every person having different backgrounds, different experience, is bringing different view or different feel for what we do. So even one gig which we do can be perceived differently by different people because of their different experiences in life. It will be seen differently by a female or by a male, the same people from different backgrounds. I'm native Polish, so even I see some things probably different way than people born here who work with us. And getting that wider spectrum and wider experience, it's very important, as that brings to probably more collaboration and better understanding between people.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. I know that in the processes of project design and also in terms of running the organisation, it is now essential really to have other voices around the table. And I know something that we do is bring people in to speak to us if we don't maybe have that expertise around the table. We want our board to be diverse. We want our team to be as diverse as possible. When we're doing work that is going out to the public, it's got to speak to all the different parts of the public.
I would say, even by the types of events which we do, as we do Diwali celebrations, we try to do Chinese New Year or opening ceremonies for Paralympic Games or something else. We do quite diverse range, or Manchester Day parade, which brings all Manchester communities together, which are very wide spectrum of nationalities, diversities, what they do. It's bringing everybody together. So I'd say we are quite diverse company.
What advice would you give to someone who was like, right, I want to get into the creative industries? Where do they start and what do they do?
I'd say start with thinking which role you would like the most, though you can try one and then switch to something else after trying and thinking that it's not for you. Otherwise, think what you can offer, look for opportunities, and it's more of them than people are aware. Start either volunteering if there is no employment possibilities. Many of our core freelance team started volunteering on the events, and then they moved to growing in the industry itself with their role. Try to get knowledge, think, and work with people. That's the most probably.
Those freelancers who do volunteer, we're not that into as an organisation getting people to work for nothing. So
Yeah.
those people who do volunteer, you can tell quite quickly whether they have the right attitude,
Skills,
attributes,
yes.
all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. And so that tends to lead to quite a quick introduction into the company, doesn't it, as a
Yes.
freelancer?
Yes, they quite often are picked up and nurtured, developed through further work, paid or experience, or even recommended to different artist companies who sometimes look for people as well.
That's important, isn't it? Because a lot of our freelancers also work with other companies. So actually, if you're on their radar, that's in addition to being on Walk the Plank's radar. And if you are...
That can grow quite quickly to being established in the sector, really.
Yeah, yeah. I think from my point of view, especially in terms of more office-based opportunities, I've always found that when someone comes to do work experience or training or a placement, for cultural organisations, the issue is often money. So
Yes.
you can't necessarily take too many risks on people who you don't know just to give them some experience. But what you do find is that when people come on placements, even work experience from school, if you make the right impression at that point, then the organisation will more often than not really want to try to give you opportunities, and that can then feed into other bits of paid work, whether it's
Yes.
short contracts
and
or...
those experiences can be in the exactly field which you work or something sideways
Yeah, those little bits of experience,
that can accumulate quite quickly.
they accumulate quickly, and you know they do make a difference when you're speaking to someone about potentially offering your services. Having that list of a number of times where you've done a thing for different cultural organisations, paid or not, you know, then that all helps. You know, to have that attitude to being supportive and helping and just having a bit of a can-do approach to
Yes.
things.
And it works on many levels, because even though my role is finance-based, which means usually working at the desk from the computer in my office, but then as it's a can-do attitude, there are occasions when like moving furniture, moving some stuff out of the bay, into the bay from the workshop, when we were getting this office, everybody, literally everybody was putting furniture together, screwing tables and chairs and making sure everything is ready. So it's that sort of attitude which helps. You are not looking only on your bit of work, you are looking at the wider spectrum, how everything fits together, where being small company helps as well, as you can see much more than in a huge companies.
You can get a real
You can get a
overview,
feel,
yeah. There's just one thing that I would kind of say to people who want to, like, I don't have a degree. I think the whole idea of having to have a degree to get into this sector, especially an arts-related degree, is not really the case. And I know from myself and lots of colleagues here and in previous places, the idea of people having a kind of master plan to get to where they've got to is a myth. And there's a lot more just being adaptable, being prepared to learn and working your way through as you go through your career. If you've got where you want to end up roughly in your sights, there's a good chance you can get there. And I think, just having the will to do that is a massive part of it. A lot of the content of actual day-to-day work, you can learn on the job. And one thing the arts sector is really good at is bringing people along for that ride and helping them to develop and appreciating their efforts, which is what I've found anyway. So, I'm now executive director here. I'm not a degree graduate. I've just found my way through the industry, and I think that it's important for people to understand that's possible too. Right, thank you so much, Aga, for taking the time, and thanks for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you. I hope that it helps some young people to get into the industry.
Great. Great. Cheers.